All right, welcome back to the show, ladies and gentlemen. The American Adversaries radio show coming to you live from the Relax and Comfort Studios. We got Nostradamus, Mike McBath, and myself, Christopher Hart, in the studio. Jeff is on the bridge. 407-774-8255 is the number. As promised, we have a guest lined up for you who is lining up to run against one of the four horsewomen of the apocalypse.
That's very kind of you referencing him that way.
AOC plus 3, as the president put it, the odd squad, as we put it for a while. And what was it? The Fruitcake 4 is what our contest
was. That was our winner.
That was the winner.
4. That was very professionally done.
So I'll let Nostradamus introduce this guest. So Nostradamus, please.
All right. Thank you. Ruth Papazian on her Congress website says she is running to restore competent representation for us in Congress. And she's going to fight against the Green New Deal, the Medicare for All program, abolishing ICE, and other policies that would increase unemployment in her district. That district is CD14, currently occupied by Alexandria Occasional Cortex, as we call her. And she had an entry for last week's contest that I thought was really good. The 4 Harpies of the Apocalypse.
Wow. She could have been right up there.
So let's welcome Ruth Papazian to the American Adversaries. Thank you for joining us, Ruth.
Thank you for having me.
So tell us a little bit about yourself. You're not a lifetime politician. Tell us about where you're from and what got you thinking that this is something you wanted to do.
I am a lifelong resident of this district. I am from here and for here. My opponent is on Twitter and TV all the time, and she's not fighting to bring jobs to our area. In fact, she drove more than 25,000 good jobs to our community when she tanked the Amazon deal. People in my community have clawed and scratched their way into the middle class, and they don't want to be bankrupted by her naive and unworkable socialist policies. I mean, we're already among the highest taxed in the nation as it is. So this race isn't about party. It's about the people of the Bronx and Queens having a credible voice in Congress again.
All right. Now, as you said, that district is 29. It's a plus 29 Democrat district, which at its face, it says, well, there's no way a Republican can win there. Tell us what you plan to do and how you plan to defeat Representative Cortez.
Well, in 2018, nobody knew her, and now we've seen what she's about. We see that she's in this to promote herself, not fight for her district. She's incredibly vulnerable. She only has a 21% favorable rating in the district because she's never here, and she's not providing basic constituent needs. This is not a district that embraces socialism, but she's focused on an extremist agenda that will bankrupt our families. So, again, I'm not running to become a Twitter icon or to be a celebrity. I want to represent the people in my community, their hopes, their aspirations, just give them a voice again. Right now, it's all socialism all the time.
Ruth, I got a question for you, too.
This is Mike McBath.
Yeah, with this Amazon situation, and, they say the average job was $150,000. I mean, do you really reinforce that? I mean, do people there really believe they could have obtained these jobs? Because if they do believe that, I don't know how she could ever get elected if you just pounded that home.
Oh, absolutely. People are very ticked off about the Amazon deal in both halves of the district. Part of the district lies in the East Bronx and part in Northwest Queens, so that's on either side of the Whitestone Bridge. There are lots of jobs that would have been created directly from Amazon, and that part of Queens is getting hipsterized, and there are people there who could have gotten the high-tech jobs, $150,000 a year jobs, and they originally voted for her, and now they won't be getting those jobs and paying off their student loans. So I'm wondering whether they'll come out again for her on Election Day. But in addition to that, Amazon, if it's one thing Amazon needs, it's warehouses. And as luck would have it, warehousing is a pretty big industry on this side of the Whitestone Bridge in the Bronx, where I am talking to you from. And she claimed she wanted to improve the deal. Well, if she wanted to improve the deal, then she should have squeezed Amazon for warehousing jobs. Now, I would love to be able to say that our people here in the Bronx could have gotten some of those tech jobs, but the fact of the matter is that there is little economic diversity here because of tax policies, and I want to change that. I think that she not only, again, destroyed the chance of those high-paying jobs and didn't fight to bring other kinds of jobs to the Bronx that would have been related to Amazon, but just think, you had 25,000 workers coming into an area. They needed places to go to lunch or drop off their dry cleaning on the way to work or maybe meet with friends for a drink. A whole ecosystem of jobs would have sprung up. So we're not really talking about 25,000 jobs. We could be talking as much as 100,000 jobs.
Right, with the residuals.
That's incredible.
Yeah, with the ripple effect. Our guest is Ruth Papazian. She wants to run against Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez or whoever that candidate may be if Ocasio-Cortez gets primaried somehow. Real quick, what's your website? How can people find out more and help you? And then I have a question for you.
My website, and thank you for asking, is ruthforcongress.com, where you can sign up, donate, and to volunteer.
Okay.
Both welcome.
And you got a Facebook page as well.
Yes, I do. It's Ruth for Congress on Facebook and Papazian 2020 on Twitter. And I think my Twitter feed is going to be a treat for people because I take it to her every day. I'm not a shrinking violet Republican.
Okay.
I love it.
Now, we were talking off the air before the show. Which do you think is an easier road for you should you survive the Republican side of the primary? To face off against Cortez herself or to face off against a more moderate Democrat if she ends up getting primaried?
Well, it's an open question whether she is going to get primaried because, frankly, she and the other harpies have scared the bejesus out of the Democrats. They think that all the energy is on the side of the millennial voters, and they don't want to alienate them.
Well,
So I don't know whether she's going to be primaried.
Well, let me sort of put the question this way. You do realize who backs her, do you not? The Justice Democrats?
Yes.
Okay. You realize that she's a big part of their plan going forward, and they're going to do just about anything to make sure she stays in that seat. Would you assume that?
Absolutely, and not only that, but she was the first of a wave of elections that took place in the outer boroughs. She wasn't the only Justice Democrat elected. There was Julia Salazar in Brooklyn and Alexandra Biaggi in the Bronx, both going to the state Senate, and several other candidates. And just now we have, in the Queens DA race, Tiffany Caban is neck and neck with the Democratic establishment candidate, Melinda Katz.
Right.
So basically, this is a long campaign to take over the outer boroughs. Elliot Engel here in the Bronx is going to be primaried, and Carolyn Maloney in Queens is going to be primaried. Those are both neighboring districts to my district. So this is an inexorable march of socialism going on here.
Well, you lay out the problem ahead of you quite well. And I guess the question is, you're not going to be able to do this by yourself. Do you anticipate the state Republican Party and the Republican National Committee to get behind whoever, would it be you or someone else, be the candidate in this district? Well,
the state committee is now being helmed by Nick Langworthy, so I expect that it's going to be reinvigorated and robust.
Okay. And
President Trump has said that we are in a war on socialism, that this will not be a socialist nation. So it stands to reason that my district is the ground zero in the war on socialism because the standard bearer of socialism in the United States is right here. So I do expect that the national and state parties are going to do what is necessary to defeat AOC. This is a marquee race.
Right.
This is just another run-of-the-mill sleepy race.
Right. I think Bernie Sanders might take issue with who the face of socialism is, but that's okay.
You mean it's not me anymore?
We'll let that
what
go.
What can you do?
All right, about the cops. Correct me if I'm wrong, some of these cops who have been assaulted with buckets of water and whatnot were in this district that we're speaking about. Is that correct?
I don't think so. I think it was elsewhere in New York.
All right.
Okay. Is that a problem in your district that the cops are not being given the support by, well, I'm reading here where DAs are not prosecuting people for these kind of offenses, just basically being jerks to law enforcement?
This is a problem in New York as a whole, because the Democrats are moving very far to the left on everything, including criminal justice reform, which does need to occur, but not the way that it's being done now, at least in New York State. You can't decriminalize quality of life issues across the board and not expect communities to start going into a downward spiral. You know, when you have things like turnstile jumping, people relieving themselves in the street, people drinking on the street, smoking dope on the street, it creates an atmosphere where people don't want to go out. And when people don't want to go out, the streets are deserted at night except for criminal elements.
Right.
It's the Dinkins years all over again. I mean, we're going backwards here.
Yeah.
Right.
And Rudy
And,
Giuliani knew that, and he improved the downtown district.
Right.
Exactly.
All right.
And I have to tell you, those of us who are lifelong residents of the Bronx and Queens, we've been down this road before. We didn't cut and run when our communities were being besieged. We stayed here. We fought back. We built our communities back up. So it's offensive when AOC claims to be a Bronxite after growing up in a very wealthy suburb in Westchester County. And it's also offensive when other candidates who moved away from the Bronx or even never lived here are now sort of circling the district like vultures, trying to see an opportunity to run against AOC.
Right.
We got the carpetbagger once. We're not going to do that again.
Okay. I want to have Nostradamus give you some results of a Gallup poll, and we don't have time to get into your policy stances on these issues. What I'd simply like to know is, are these the issues that are important in your district? Nostradamus, please.
Yeah, the poll was quick and one question. It was open-ended. It was not directed at all. It just asked, what do you think is the most important problem facing the country today? And they asked this the beginning of this month to about 3,000 people all across the country. Number one, 27%, immigration. Number two, 23%, the government and poor leadership. Number three, tied, race relations and health care, tied at 7% each. Everything else, including education, poverty, climate change, was way, way down there. Does that match what you're seeing in your district?
Yes and no. In my district, for example, immigration is important, but from a different angle. See, border control and immigration control is not just a national security issue. It is also a neighborhood security issue. And we have a problem here with Trinitarios and MS-13 gang members. And so immigration control would help with that.
What?
And but
Go ahead.
look, these are families here, families with children, and education is important. So school vouchers for charter and religious schools is important to improve K through 12 education for all the students. And for me personally, I want to create charter schools for specialized vocational schools, that even special needs students can be educated properly.
Okay. All right. Mike McBath has one last question for you.
Yeah, one last question, Ruth. What is your age breakdown in the community? Do you have any colleges in your sector, where, you're talking about, what is it, Charlie Hurt and his group going around and educating people, how to work against socialism, et cetera? What is your age structure in that area?
We do have several colleges in both halves of the district. But, okay, so let me tell you, there are actually more people in the district between the ages of 40 to 69 years old than there are Generation Z or millennials between 20 and 39 years old. So it's like the breakdown is like 38% between the ages of 40 and 59 and 31% younger than that. So these are people who have homes, who have kids, and they're not socialists.
Okay. All right. I actually have one last question for you. You would have maybe won last week's contest about renaming the squad. Now, tomorrow night's contest is going to be, what question would you have asked Mueller today? Now, if you get to Congress, you may be drawn into all of this. If you had been there today, what question would you have asked Mueller?
I would have asked him why he chose Andrew Weissman after it was well known that he has a record of withholding exculpatory evidence, and that one of his most major convictions was overturned by the Supreme Court. I would have asked him what credentials did this man have that prompted him to think that he would be suitable for this position.
Okay. Well, we'll put you down as an entry, and if you win, we'll let you know.
She can come to Cafe Papazian.
That's right. You come down here and have Italian dinner with us.
It's not a funny answer, but this is not really funny to me. It's deadly serious.
Sure.
Because prosecutorial misconduct to the level that we are seeing is un-American.
All right.
Amen.
Well, thank you very much. Good luck to you. That's RuthForCongress.com. Ruth Papazian running against Ocasio-Cortez. Thank you so much, Ruth, and I'm sure we'll be talking to you again.
Oh, I'm looking forward to it. Thank you for having me.
All right.
Chris, you're going to love her enthusiasm.
Yeah, well, she seems to know what lays ahead of her.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
I mean,
I like the New York accent,